Tiffany Burks, Democratic candidate for Tarrant County DA, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
So why should voters select you over your opponent, Phil Sorrells?
You know, I think people should select me because I have the experience, the qualifications, the leadership ability to do this job. You know, for 24 plus years, I've been a prosecutor. So the job is exactly what I've been doing for my entire career. I've tried well over 150 jury trials. I have promoted to deputy chief in the office where I supervised over 100 lawyers. I helped with policy in the office. I implemented programs in the office like the police liaison program that's still in existence today. I've been called upon to train and mentor young lawyers and some old in the office. And I've also been called upon to train across the state, speaking with the State Bar of Texas, speaking for the Texas District and County Attorneys Association, 400 or 500 people at a time. And so I have the experience and the qualifications, but more than anything else, I have the passion and the drive for this job. The people of this community mean a lot to me. I've been talking to the people in this community for well over a year now. And I think it's important that in order for us to be good public servants, we have to listen to the needs of those we serve. And so that's why I think people should pick me. I'm someone who not only has the experience, but someone who cares about the job.
If elected, what are your top priorities?
I have several. I think mental health and drug addiction is a huge concern here in our county. There's been concern about fentanyl abuse, the amount of fentanyl that's available within our community and our county. And I think we really need to take a good look, a strong look at how we're dealing with mental health and drug addiction in this community. And so that's something that is a top priority for me because I believe a number of cases that come through the DA's office has some element of mental health and addiction in it. The other high priority for me, two others, a diversion unit. We've never had one in Tarrant County. We have diversion programs that are run by judges and courts, but to have a diversion unit within the DA's office I think is going to make a difference because our lawyers can look at those cases on the front end and determine if there are some mental health or drug addiction issues or needs that need to be met prior to those cases going through the prosecution of those cases. And so that's something I'm very excited about, working in the community, meeting with so many people, finding these resources, knowing that they're there, knowing that they're underutilized, and knowing that there's a place in the criminal justice system for us to use them. And then the final thing is just obviously the backlog of criminal cases. COVID happened. We have quite a few cases that are pending, 40,000 or so within the county. And I have a plan to reduce the backlog. It's going to encompass a lot of work, but it's also going to encompass facilitating relationships between judges, defense attorneys, law enforcement. And I think that I'm the right person to get that done.
I was going to ask you if you could elaborate at least on that. What are any specifics as far as getting that backlog of cases down?
Sure. I think the first thing we have to do is conduct an inventory of the cases that we already have. Crime isn't going to stop. People are going to continue to commit crimes. But there are some cases right now, and I know because I just left the office in August of last year, that have been pending for a very long time. And cases don't get better the longer they sit. And so we need to do an inventory of those cases and determine what cases are cases that we can try to work out quickly with the plea bargain, being fair and just when we do it, but also being able to separate those cases that we can plea bargain with the cases that need to be tried so that we can get those before the courts and get those cases handled also.
You talked about mental illness before, and I'm wondering how you can elaborate a little bit on what might that look like, because that is an issue, and sometimes there's violence concerned with those crimes. So talk to me a little bit about that.
Right. So you probably know that when Sandra Bland happened, there was a law change. And essentially every person that comes through the Tarrant County Jail goes through a risk assessment to determine if they have mental health needs. It's at that juncture when we know that someone has mental health needs, then we can start the process of getting them the help that they need prior to those cases moving and flowing through our criminal justice system. I mean, the sooner we identify the issue, the sooner we can get people resources, and the faster we can make a difference in, how that person responds, not only in our community but also in court. I think you probably are also aware that we have a facility now, mental health facility now here in Tarrant County for that purpose. But I think it's really important that we start the process earlier, and it's also important that we start the process before the people actually reach our jails. And so by that I mean there are individuals who come through the DA's office or through the probation department. We need to make sure that they have the mental health assistance that they need so that they don't come back. And so that's really important to me.
I wanted to ask you about abortion. There are some district attorneys in Texas, Democrats, who have said they are not going to prioritize those cases because they disagree with the state's law. Where are you on that issue?
Well, I've said on the record before that I think it's unfortunate that medical providers have to choose between their medical license and their Hippocratic oath and their ability to provide good reproductive rights, reproductive decisions to their patients. And so with that said, as a district attorney, I'm going to have to make the tough decisions of whether or not those cases are prosecuted or not. And the way that I'm going to go about doing that is, number one, I take an oath to follow the law, and I will do that. But there's a part to it that I don't think people really realize, and that is, as district attorneys, we also have a duty to see that justice is done. And so it's a nuanced balance, but you have to balance following the law with seeing that justice is done. And as I sit with you right now, Jack, I don't know how much justice there is in prosecuting individuals, especially those who have been raped or from incest, for prosecuting medical providers for assisting people in making that type of decision.
Well, I know under the state law as it is now that the state would prosecute the doctors and the medical providers, not the
woman.
Right.
That's right.
And so that's the law. And so you're saying you'd have to really see the specific case?
That's exactly right. I mean, I have a duty when that type of case has been investigated. I have a duty. I take an oath to review those cases, to follow the law. But I also have a duty to see that justice is done. And as I said, I don't know how you can find justice in prosecuting medical providers for assisting people who've gone through, in some circumstances, very traumatic circumstances, and find themselves in the situation that they find themselves in.
You, as you mentioned, have a very long history in the DA's office. And so I know your opponent was a longtime judge. And so how do you think your experience lends itself to being in charge at the DA's office?
It's a different dynamic entirely. Judges have a very important function here in our criminal justice system. I don't deny that. But it's a different type of role that they have in the criminal justice system. They normally don't supervise very many people, just a couple. There's not a lot of policy decisions that have to be made. Unless they are a judge who actually takes the time to implement other programs and do other things outside of their role as a judge and taking pleas and handling bail concerns. That's pretty much what the job entails. For the district attorney, though, it's going to require more than that. And the reason that I highlight the experience that I have, everything from misdemeanors to death penalty litigation, is because it is from that experience that I will draw upon to make sure that I'm making the best decisions for the citizens of this county.
Do you think there need to be wholesale changes to the way the department, the DA's office works?
And when you say wholesale changes?
As far as priorities, as far as number of prosecutors, as far as what is really focused on there?
I think what's important is Once I become DA, to start to look at numbers. I think we have to look at statistics and make those kind of decisions. The number of cases, the types of cases, the types of lawyers that we have, their experience levels in the office. There are a lot of things that are going to have to be reviewed before I can make any decisions on any changes that could be made. And I think that's probably going to happen. I think there's going to have to be some changes. I mean, we have a backlog of 40,000 plus cases. But to say, will there be wholesale changes? I don't think there will be wholesale changes. I do think that there will be required to have some changes, just because the number of cases that are pending right now are so high.
And do you think that the County Commissioner's Court, there's going to be a new Tarrant County judge, as you know, some new commissioners. Do you think that the Tarrant County Commissioner's Court is going to have to increase the budget at the DA's office to deal with some of the issues that the office is facing with? And how do you go about trying to get that money if you're elected?
I think, right now I believe the DA's office has about a 40,000 plus, 40 million plus budget. And I think that is probably sufficient for now. Until such time as I get into the office and begin to look at it, it's really difficult to say if we're going to need more money and resources. But that is certainly something that I'm very cognizant of, making sure that we are good stewards of the taxpayers' money, and making sure we're not asking for things that we don't, that surplusage that we don't need. I'll make sure that we have, and we'll be making the requests for things that we need to make sure we're getting the job done.
I did have one other question, and I appreciate your time.
Sure.
And that is, as far as in some counties like Harris County, there's been a lot of criticism about the judges, in some cases releasing people on very low bond amounts. How big of a concern is that? Do you see that as a problem here in Tarrant County? And how big of a concern is that you'll be watching for that?
Yes. I don't see it as a huge concern in Tarrant County, but I'll tell you that it has happened. Judges are the ones who are responsible for determining bond amounts. DA's offices don't do that. But what we can do and what we should do is, if we see cases in which we think an individual might be a person who would abscond and not come back to court, or someone who could be a threat to the community in some way, we should certainly go to the judges and say, we think the bond should be higher because of this situation. And the law allows us to do that, just like the law allows defense attorneys to request that the bond be lowered. And so I think that the DA's office has been good about that, and I will make sure that we continue to be good about that. And I know that's been an issue and a talking point in the county, but I think that we have the tools at our disposal to make sure that doesn't happen.
Tiffany Burks, Democratic candidate for Tarrant County DA, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me.
We appreciate it.
Thank you.